Hey everyone, the last week in Moodle news starts now. Brought to you by Moodlenews.com. Sponsored by eThink Education.
Hi everyone, welcome to the last week in Moodle News. I'm Stephen Laddick from Moodlenews.com. In this episode, we'll be talking about the most important stories from the Moodleverse for the week of August 28th, 2017. This week, I'll be covering Moodle's 15th birthday, small and public colleges versus commercial EdTech, closing the feedback loop in Moodle, and much more. But before I get started, I wanted to take a minute to thank everyone who has sent us feedback about this podcast since we launched last week. The response thus far has been absolutely fantastic, and I really hope that you keep it coming. Seriously, I really want to know how I can evolve and improve the show to make sure it's fun and entertaining, but most importantly, delivering the information you're most interested in about Moodle. So let me know. Are there other news stories you'd like covered? Do you want interviews with Moodlers around the world? Do you want to focus on specific technologies or walkthroughs, or something else you'd like to hear? Just take 30 seconds out of your day and give me a shout at the Moodle News website, on our Facebook page or Twitter, or just by emailing me at podcast@moodlenews.com. Okay, now last but not least, so that we can keep the show on the air, a quick shout out to our sponsor.
eThink Education is a high-touch, high-quality certified Moodle partner that has a passion for the transformative power of technology for the learning process. Visit them today at ethinkeducation.com to schedule a demo and learn why so many Moodle institutions are making the switch to eThink.
Okay, as we always open the show, I summarized the 3 most popular posts from the last 7 days on Moodlenews.com. First, Martin Dougiamas wishes everyone and Moodle a very happy 15th birthday. As you're likely aware, Moodle 1.0 was officially launched on midnight of August 20th, 2002 on the Moodle forum. In our article at Moodlenews.com, we fast forward to today where Martin reflects on how fast things have moved and how Moodle has become a truly community-driven project. If you want to watch the full video, we have it for you in our article at Moodlenews.com. Next, get ready for Moodle Moot Colombia in 2017. This strategically located country is an interesting prospect for the future of Moodle. While it's only the 30th in the world in terms of population, it's the 9th largest Moodle country in terms of registrations and the 3rd among Spanish speakers. Moodle Moot Colombia will take place in Bogota starting Thursday, August 31st. You can follow the activities on Moodle News or on social media using the hashtag MootCO17. Finally, Moodle Moot Romania for 2017 is a wrap. In the last decade, the Eastern European country has become a regional center of learning technologies with a particular focus on open source. In July, it hosted the IEEE International Conference in Advanced Learning Technologies. The official Moot took place in Bucharest last week. Along with the talks and networking opportunities you associate with all Moots, the event also featured a hackathon that you really should check out. Alright, on to things happening in the Moodleverse. In this section, I dive in depth into one of the most interesting topics happening in the Moodle community over the past week. And as I mentioned just a second ago, on August 20th, 2002, Moodle turned 15. It all started at Curtin University, where Martin Dougiamas was thinking about using the internet as a tool for distance learning after graduation. It's not a surprise this was on Martin's mind because distance learning is something Australia has quite a bit of experience with. It's home to some of the most remote communities in the world, and initiatives like the School of the Air have given millions of kids the opportunity to get an education using technology since the 60s. Since its inception 15 years ago, tons of work by people across the globe have made Moodle what it is today. Last year, we shared a mesmerizing visualization by Nicholas Martignoni that captures these contributions over time that I really think you should check out. Celebrations around the world have been happening throughout the month. If you were in one of the dozens of cities where Moodle events took place, make sure you share them on social media using the hashtag MoodleParty. There are many reasons to celebrate. In addition to turning 15, earlier in the year, Moodle also hit the milestone of 100 million registered users. That's not too bad for a teenager. Other areas of success are Moodle Cloud, with new sites being created every day, and Moodle Mobile, particularly the branded service that allows organizations to offer their own custom learning apps powered by Moodle. So, do you have a fond memory of Moodle from the past 15 years? Moodle has created a special forum thread to share stories with other longtime Moodlers. But before the party's over, let's step back for a second and think about the next 15 years in learning technology and open source. Will Moodle continue to rapidly grow its number of registered users? And if so, where will these numbers come from? What are the new features that will become the norm in EdTech over the next decade? Will we witness virtual reality slowly take over the classroom, or will some other technology emerge? There's no shortage of imagination about what EdTech could become, but if you want to get some perspective, check out the archives in our governance section and learn from Moodle HQ's history lessons.
This section of the Last Week in Moodle News is sponsored by WizIQ. Trusted by many, WizIQ's virtual classroom plug-in for Moodle lets you deliver live classes from within your Moodle LMS. Download now at www.wiziq.com.
All right, in this next section, I discuss interesting information that affects everyone in EdTech. And this week, I want to talk about whether new EdTech companies will save public education, small colleges and universities, or make them extinct. I recently came across two stories that might give you some perspective on both sides of this story. In many ways, this is an age-old debate, but we do live in an age where reliance on digital technologies is increasing, sometimes in a way that's too fast to make sense of everything. But at the same time, digital technologies bring opportunities that are too good to pass up for learners, instructors, and administrators. The first story tells us how organizations jumping too hastily into the digital economy could find themselves at a disadvantage with their tech-savvy partners. The Century Foundation recently published a report called The Private Side of Public Higher Education. The report argues that private edtech companies are playing an increasingly large role as intermediaries between the programs offered by public institutions and the platform students use, such as Moodle or other LMSs. Since 2015, these EdTech intermediaries have recorded double-digit rates of growth. The EdTech companies, which are sometimes called online program managers, often serve a useful purpose by bringing public education institutions into the modern landscape. But this can come with risks down the road. For starters, the online program managers have no obligation and no economic incentive to help public institutions become technologically self-sufficient. In fact, the opposite seems to be the case most often, and in the long term, vital technologies could end up completely in private hands. But a contrasting view came out just a few days later in a report by the Council of Independent Colleges titled The Financial Resilience of Independent Colleges and Universities. This report highlights the high level of competitiveness taking place in small colleges and their perennial risk of financial instability, and the many ways private services has helped these same institutions to stay afloat within this menage. The authors find that a set of institutional leadership characteristics, where embracing innovation and new technologies is emphasized, they're much more significant predictors of long-term sustainability than future trends in enrollments or revenues from tuitions and fees. So what do you think this means for the future of EdTech in small universities or public colleges or public institutions? Hit me up an email, podcast@moodlenews.com, or on our Facebook page /Moodle News, or on Twitter, which is @Moodle News, and let us know what you think. Next, in our Moodle practice section, I focus on a practical way to help you up your Moodle game. Many people in the Moodleverse love analytics, and if you take a look at the analytics tag on MoodleNews.com, you know I do too. But while stats and graphs are sexy, we also need to make sure that the analytics we track turn into feedback that our learners can actually understand and then really apply, right? In still a great deal of classrooms, a learner's score on an assignment is the beginning and end of feedback. This is how they understand the quality of their work, right? In Moodle, activities where students have to upload their work can also be annotated by instructors. So it's important to think of feedback as taking place on a loop of some sort, right? As an instructor, anytime you have an assignment from a learner in your hands, you should consider it a checkpoint, where ideally you should be able to get a sense of how much they have improved since the last time you checked in on them. For those who really want to improve the feedback they give to their learners, here are 3 questions to reflect on. First, do you have the right tools in place to assess your learners and identify the areas that need work? Second, can learners efficiently access your notes, comments, or suggestions for the future? And third, do learners have the opportunity to complete the loop so you can check on their performance and quality on the same skill? I want to round this out by offering 3 ways you can help close the feedback loop in Moodle. First of all, check out the talk by Jessica Gramp about how to view and compare assessment feedback in Moodle. In her talk, she showcases the My Feedback plugin, but she also makes the case that any tool to give feedback can only be as good as the feedback you're giving. So, as your first step, make sure your learners get clear and relevant feedback for their assignments. Second, make use of productivity tools to save time while giving feedback. In the latest plugin review at Moodle News, we featured structured feedback, a tool where you can save your best bits of advice for quick access during your evaluation. And finally, give your learners opportunities to show they have understood and incorporated feedback. Give them new tasks that are comparable, and make sure that there are always ways they can identify how they have improved their skills. Okay, in this last section, I talk about the 3 articles that we're most excited about publishing this week on MoodleNews.com. This week, we'll be publishing a special review of the general purpose family of plugins by the Academic Moodle Cooperation, or AMC, that are now available for Moodle 3.3. AMC is a partnership of Australian universities that work together to give Moodle special features that are common requests by their members, which they then make available to the global community. All 9 plugins developed and maintained by AMC are great, but you can't miss MC Offline Quiz. If you consistently have to organize and grade pen and paper-based testing, this plugin will change your life. And that's not all. AMC also produces a series of cheat sheets with visual step-by-step instructions on how to use the plugins in real life. We're also looking forward to sharing some updates from Moodle partners and organizations as they continue to expand and offer more integrated services in Africa. We'll follow up on EdTech, who is a sponsor of this podcast, and a Moodle partner who recently started to offer services in Nigeria. We'll also talk about a case study involving Green Innovation Center at Africa Rice and their use of Moodle Mobile for teaching agriculture. And Moodle Moot South Africa is coming up this October, so we'll have more information about the event online soon. Finally, are you ready for the General Data Protection Regulation? The European Union will begin to enforce GDPR in May of next year. It will especially affect technology companies who are based outside the continent but serve European users and students. One of the most critical issues involves data privacy. The law includes very specific restrictions on how companies can use information about users, and the penalties for not complying can be very steep. We will give you a clear-cut explanation of the practical implications of the law and Moodle's position and plan to guarantee compliance for all its users. Okay, Shazam, we're done. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Last Week in Moodle News podcast. If you like what you're hearing, please take just a few seconds to give us a review on iTunes or whatever podcast app you happen to be using. And of course, join me next week for all of the most important news about Moodle.
The Last Week in Moodle News is hosted and produced by Stephen Laddick, with writing, research, and editing by Christian Duquet and Joseph Tebow. Have questions, edits, rants, or raves about this show? Send them to podcast@moodlenews.com.